Peter Pan is actually a demon. The real story behind Peter Pan. I'm not gonna lie. I saw this video pop up. I gotta watch it. You feel me? Jacob Seal reviews, bro. I liked his video. Drop a like on my video. Let's
I
get
was
into
recently
this
thinking
video.
over
You
some of
feel
the
me?
attributes of Peter Pan, and
Real quick. Why? My fault. I just. Why was he thinking about Peter Pan randomly? You feel me? Why?
I was recently thinking over some of the attributes of Peter Pan, and I was thinking about how Peter Pan actually seems like some kind of evil entity if we really had to break it down. So I started doing a bunch of research over the course of days. I just got very fixated on this idea of what is Peter Pan.
I wonder what really, bro. What led to these thoughts, though? I really am curious about that. Anyway,
And honestly, the deeper I dug, the more disturbing it got. And at this point, I think that not only is he something very insidious, but I believe that he is actually a demon.
a demon.
And that he is evil. Now I know on the surface this sounds really crazy. It's actually a shocking amount of evidence looking at the origins of Peter Pan, it over time, and then looking at the historical side with the author. Now spoiler alert, the author of this book was obsessed with these children and he wrote this book for them and about them. I personally am very disturbed by the aspect of the author J.M. Barrie and his involvement with these children, the death of their parents, and according to some sources, he became an unofficial guardian to the boys. I'm gonna make a full video in the future about that.
So, are they saying that he's like a PDF file? If you know what I'm trying to say, like a PDF. You feel me? But like, a PDF file. Kind of sounds like the. You know what I'm trying to say, right?
Because there's so much there. And
For me, it's YouTube, so I can't say the actual word. But is he one of those, bro? Is Peter Pan one of them, my nigga?
when you look at a surface level, it seems very innocent, but the deeper you look, the more disturbing it is. So this video is just talking about Peter Pan, why he is evil, and then we are going to talk over how he connects a little bit to the author.
The first Peter Pan.
So in this video, we're not talking about the Walt Disney one necessarily. We're gonna be going back to before that.
By the
But
way,
you're gonna
if any of you are wondering, because you guys can't see what it says, look.
So in this video, we're not talking about the Walt Disney
He will
one
live in your heart
necessarily. We're gonna be
forever.
going back to before that. But you're gonna notice that a lot of the things that you see in the Disney version are there from the original version, which has these disturbing elements. They're still trickled in, but they've been kind of lessened over time. So originally the concept of Peter Pan was created by this man, J.M. Barrie. In 1902, he wrote a book called The Little White Bird. In The Little White Bird, that's the first time this character Peter Pan ever appeared. And there's a lot here that we're gonna go into in the next video once we actually talk about J.M. Barrie. But all you really need to know for this part is that in The Little White Bird, Peter Pan is a 7-day-old infant.
I gotta watch that video too, where he talks about the author.
And he is flying around in this park, and this park
If y'all want to see that, let me know. You feel me? Drop a like and stuff like that. And also tell me in the comments too. You feel me?
park has this magical element to it that takes over once the gates close and all the visitors are gone for the This is a 7-day-old infant, and he is flying around in this park, and this park has this magical element to it that takes over once the gates close and all the visitors are gone for the day. So this little 7-day-old baby basically is flying around, and this little baby, Peter Pan, he, for some reason, had magical
The Peter Princess is a little bird princess. Sure, and I was called Peter Pan. Okay.
powers. He flew out of his window, flew around, and by the time he went back to his house, his mother already had a new baby and the window was closed. So Peter Pan, that's why he doesn't have a mom in the original story, The Little White Bird. But I'm gonna skip over The Little White Bird for the most part because this 7-day-old version of Peter Pan is not super recognizable to what we know Peter Pan to be later. While the book, The Little White Bird, was not very popular, the parts about Peter Pan were popular. So then J.M. Barrie decided to go ahead and start adapting that further. When I do my next video on J.M. Barrie, you'll see how potentially Peter Pan might have been a grooming story for these children.
Whoa. Okay. We gotta find out more about J.M. Barrie in the next video. I ain't gonna lie, bro.
My opinion. In 1904, he adapts it into a
With the real Peter? This is a real photo of J.M. Barrie with the real Peter.
have been a grooming story for these children, in my opinion. In 1904, he adapts it into a stage play, and this is called Peter Pan, the Boy Who Wouldn't Grow Up. Originally, J.M. Barrie wanted to name this The
And then that's why it takes kids to never, ever, ever land, because you don't want to grow up.
Boy Who Hated Mothers. But there was pushback from the people who were helping him, so then it was changed. So then he wanted to call it Peter Pan, the Little Boy Who Couldn't Grow Up, and then that was
So it's going to be called The Boy Who Hated Mothers? Wow.
changed to The Little Boy Who Wouldn't Grow
Does that nigga hate his mother or something?
Up. In 1911, this stage play gets adapted into Peter and Wendy, also known as Peter Pan and Wendy. So in this novel, this is the Peter Pan and the story we would recognize today. So you have Peter Pan, Wendy, the Lost Boys, you have Captain Hook, Tinkerbell, the crocodile that bit off Hook's hand, who ate a clock so he's always ticking, Neverland, all of it's here, but a much more dark and disturbing version of it. All versions of Peter Pan that you've seen are very much based around this novel. On the surface, one of the big differences is Peter is much younger than he's portrayed. In the Disney films, he looks like he might be a teenager or close to that age, but in these earlier books, he was much younger, somewhere between 8 and 10.
Okay.
Now, in the books, you're kind of unsure what Peter is exactly. They only describe him as being between and betwixt a bird and a boy. In the book, Peter Pan is described as wearing an outfit made of skeleton leaves.
What? Skeleton weeds? The fuck? What?
And in these early depictions of Peter Pan, he is playing a flute, sometimes to small animals. And another thing in these pictures, in these early depictions of Peter Pan, is that you'll see that his hair almost looks like it's tied up, or that he has small horns. And this seems like it might be far-fetched until you look and see that he's playing a flute for small animals that are dancing, and that there's actually chaos all around them.
Well, I can't say that's fully a horn. It does look more like a leaf than a horn.
There's basically a battle that's about to happen. And when we take all of that evidence and more and put it together, he looks a lot like the Greek god Pan. Now, first off, his name literally is Peter Pan.
Okay,
so Pan also plays the pan flute, and he's the god of shepherds and flocks.
Hey, he might
which
be
makes sense
cooking
why
right
Peter
now.
would be playing to these small animals. So another thing
I've actually heard this before too about Pan and shit. You feel me?
about the god Pan is that he enjoyed and could cause panic and chaos. The word panic in English actually comes from Pan, and Pan would really revel in this chaos that he created. It was almost as if it was fun for him. So one thing that Peter Pan
Yo, you see, I heard about the god Pan before, because I kind of heard something about how Peter Pan's like a grim story, right? But then I just seen this video pop up. I'm like, okay, let's see what the fuck it's about. He might be cooking right now, I'm not gonna lie.
and Pan seemingly have in common is that they both will cause chaos for their own entertainment, which will make more sense in a moment. And they can be very cruel when they're pursuing their lusts. And then we see that Pan was depicted with these small little horns that kind of look like small ears, just like Peter's. And then we also know that Peter goes out and he will fraternize and hang out with mermaids and sirens. And a lot of the early art, there are depictions of him doing this, flying over them, sitting with the mermaids on the rocks. But these creatures were feared by humans, so the fact that Peter is seemingly unaffected by them, it's almost as if he is something more than human himself, akin to maybe some kind of supernatural creature or god. And that's why he can hang around with these mermaids and sirens. Peter using his flute also to make these small animals dance in this art is very reminiscent of the Pied Piper. In the story of the Pied Piper in Germany, there was a piper that came along, and he came to this town that was having this huge rat infestation. He told the people of the town he could get rid of the rats if they paid him, so they agreed to that. He played his flute, which lured all of the rats out of town, and he lured them into a river where they all drowned. The piper then goes back to this village and he asks for his money, and the villagers refuse to pay him. So then the piper uses his flute to lure all of their children away from the village into the water where they also drown. And it's weird when you look at the elements of the story and the way everything unfolds. If you look at it through a different lens, it's actually quite disturbing.
I think that one probably flew over my head. I probably missed something there. I don't know.
Peter has been breaking into Wendy's room and sitting at the foot of her bed each night and playing his flute. One night while doing this, he's caught and his shadow abandons him. Peter Pan then bursts into their
His shadow abandons him? Why does that sound familiar? Did that happen in the actual movie?
room, waking them up. He says that his shadow's gotten away and is somewhere in the room and that they need to help him find it. Which, just looking at that at face value, that's very much something a groomer would do, right? It's like the, I lost a puppy, can you help me find it? Or any of those things.
Okay, okay. Uh, uh, was that a reach? Did he reach with that? He might have, but I'm not sure.
That they teach in Stranger Danger. He tells Wendy to sew the shadow back on.
Because that does sound like some bullshit. Like, I lost my shadow, help me find it. What the fuck are we talking about? You feel me? I mean, should a kid? As a person who works with kids, I don't know a kid that's that dumb to fall for that shit. I don't even think that a first grader would do that shit. You feel me? Maybe a younger kid though, like 3 years old or some shit.
On him, so he has her make things that they teach in Stranger Danger. He tells Wendy to sew the shadow back on him, so he has her make physical contact with him. Then he tells the children about this magical place called Neverland.
And he says there's mermaids and there's pirates, and he makes it sound really fun, but the text lets us know that Peter is actually trying to lure the children away.
I said, cried John, why shouldn't we all go out? Of course, it was Jesus that Peter had been luring them. Ooh.
From their house.
And then he tells Wendy that
Wendy said, this love when you could tuck us in at night. None of us has ever been tucked in at night. Oh, her arms went out to them, and you could throw on our clothes and make pockets for us. None of us has any pockets.
she can play mom to him and the other Lost Boys. But when the kids get to Neverland, first off, Tinkerbell is jealous of Wendy immediately, and she does something which almost causes Wendy to be killed by a pirate. The only reason Wendy doesn't die is because she has an acorn necklace that Peter gave to her, but she had to kiss him to get it. Again, you're seeing like these very groomy things come out.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, some of this stuff is a little bit groomy. I can't even lie. You feel me? Peter Thimble her, it was me. She screeched, what is that, Wendy? They call it kissing thimbles. Oh, Peter thimbled her, so Peter kissed her. Okay, it was me. She screeched.
Out over and over throughout the story. And then when the children get to Neverland, Neverland is not this amazing place that Peter sold it as. There's actually a perpetual war going on between pirates and these Lost Boys. And mind you, these Lost Boys are children, and so these children are fighting against full-grown adults.
Even his art is crazy, bro. Look how he looking at him, bro. Like, what's going on here, bro? What the heck, yo?
So Peter is luring these children to come fight.
Ain't Walt Disney a weirdo too? You feel me? Makes sense that he would fuck with this whole Peter Pan weird shit.
Fight as child soldiers in his army. And Peter Pan doesn't need the extra help. He started this war. As far as the book says, he started the war between him and Hook when he cut off his hand. So then he drags these Lost Boys in to come fight full-grown adults as children.
What the
and
fuck?
as you might expect, some of the Lost Boys...
Bro, that's fucking wild, bro. This nigga started a war, then said, I gotta recruit me some little ass niggas. He ain't say this nigga didn't want to recruit no regular people. He recruited some little ass kids.
die. So as they're
I could kind of see how, you know, like on some weird shit. I could see how, like, an older person might think that, yeah, I don't know, like, I'm gonna tell these kids, cause you know how like kids want to be superheroes and stuff like that. You feel me? He told the kids like, yeah, bro, you feel me? I need y'all for like a monster hunt. You guys would be heroes and trust the Lord. I'm like, I don't know, bro. I don't know. Let me shut the fuck up. Cause that shit sounds stupid, but I don't know. Niggas be doing stupid shit all the time. So a nigga might try that shit like, hey, nigga, y'all help me fight. Y'all want to be superheroes. I got some, you feel me? And the kid thinks like a game or something like that. I don't know. But then it becomes, I don't fucking know, bro.
in this chaotic world, some of the Lost Boys start to be killed by pirates. But the ones that aren't killed by pirates start to age. And everyone is very confused about this except for Peter, which he then turns on them and murders them.
Oh my
and that's
God.
the trick of Neverland, is the reason you don't age in Neverland is either because the pirates kill you or Peter does. And
I've heard something like this before too. I'm not gonna cap.
this is the quote from the book talking about when the Lost Boys find out that they are still aging. The boys on the island vary, of course, in numbers, according as they get killed and so on. And when
Very good. According to I guess what they see.
they seem to be growing up, which is against the rules, Peter thins them out. That's right, if you don't die by the pirates in Neverland, Peter will kill you himself. And this whole point has actually brought up books and movies, and a lot of people hypothesize that the pirates that they're fighting against were previous Lost Boys. If Peter tricks people into coming here and to fighting against
Interesting theory.
the pirates, and he's gonna kill them at a certain point when they age, it's possible that some of these Lost Boys ran away, defected, and joined the pirates, and they're now trying to kill Peter, who is their enslaver and captor. So there's even a movie and a book about how, what if Hook was actually the original Lost Boy, and he was Peter's favorite Lost Boy? Because another big part of this is that Peter Pan says that the Lost Boys were all orphans, but that's not true. We know that he went and got Wendy and her brothers and brought them there, and now they're part of the Lost Boys group.
Right.
It seems as though Peter goes and he tricks children into running away from their families because he hates mothers. Remember, it was originally called The Boy Who Hated Mothers.
Word.
And so while you're in Neverland, you forget about your life before. You don't remember anything before Neverland. That's another part of the trap. Peter tells you can leave, but you can't leave somewhere if you don't remember where you came from and you think you've always been there. And then he tells
I guess that makes sense if he's capturing like babies, like dead ass babies, and not kids who had memory. Yeah, you feel me? I see where you're going with that.
tells you after a certain point that, no, you were just an orphan and I took you in. And then he tricks little girls to come in and become the mothers for him and these other boys that he's tricked
Oh my god, bro, this is disgusting, bro.
to be there. The entire thing is absolutely insane. And while this is going on, Wendy and her brothers, their parents are crying and they're absolutely devastated because their children have been abducted.
Yeah.
They're not having fun.
Escaping.
So originally at the end of the book, the kids do happen to remember their parents. They had completely forgotten about them, but they remember while they're having a conversation. And they all desperately want to go home, so they immediately start flying back. And Peter flies ahead of them and puts bars on their windows so they cannot go home. And then once he sees how devastated the parents are, he takes the bars off the windows. The children are reunited with their parents, and the parents adopt all of the Lost Boys. And then there's an extra chapter that J.M. Barrie wrote but didn't include originally, but in later releases it was included. And in the final chapter, we see that Peter Pan comes back every generation, and he takes Wendy's daughter, he takes Wendy's daughter's daughter. So it's a generation of grooming these children to take them away. If you're still not convinced that Peter Pan is somehow evil, when the biographer Andrew Birkin was working on the biography for J.M. Barrie, he was allowed access to his early versions of the script, as well as his personal notes about Peter Pan. And what he found is originally Captain Hook was not in the story at all, because Peter Pan was actually the villain. Peter Pan in these earlier versions was much more cruel, and J.M. Barrie recognized that Peter Pan was the villain. No other villain was needed. But then later Captain Hook was added to the script and Peter Pan was lightened a little bit, but we still see all of these villainous traits that he has. And honestly, looking at it objectively, he has no positive traits. And my last piece of evidence was when Andrew Birkin was looking through J.M. Barrie's work. He found that J.M. Barrie, in his notes about Peter Pan, described Peter Pan as a demon boy. So as you can see, there is an insane amount of evidence that Peter Pan not only could be, but is evil. He was the original villain of the story. And not only that, he's still the villain. It's just that over time, we've been groomed by the story, so we don't even see it for what it is. And one thing that it makes me think is Peter Pan, does he look as he presents? Or does he present as a young boy because that's the easiest way to get children to follow him away? What does Peter Pan actually look like? Maybe he's some kind of entity, demon, alien, what have you, and this thing can look like whatever it wants. Sort of like your Pennywise the Clown. Ultimately, after doing all of my research, I am convinced that Peter Pan is actually a demon. And that's right in line with the actual author's notes on the subject. So like I said, I'm gonna do another video where I go into depth about the author, and then we're gonna look into what happened after that. And unfortunately, the story is extremely tragic. But I think that's where I'm gonna leave this for now.
I kind of want to see the video about the author, I ain't gonna lie. But does he have it on here? I don't fucking know. Anyway, I'm gonna end the video right here. I love you. Catch my next video. Peace the freak Out.